Merry Christmas! Thank you for joining me at Talking to Myself. Last month, I mentioned that I might interview Santa Claus. My daughters told me it was a terrible idea, especially since he might be busy right now. If you are new to this podcast, I'm Carol L. Paur, author and your host. My voice is a little froggy. We went Christmas caroling the other night. Our daughters usually invite a bunch of their friends over and we go to sing around the city. I would love to start some type of caroling in the park where different groups come together to sing carols. I read somewhere that the idea of going from place to place to sing showed up around the 1200s. Back then, I'm sure they were not singing Frosty the Snowman or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Caroling is only one tradition of Christmas. Another one is telling stories. Families might share their stories of Christmas past. How about that ubiquitous Christmas letter? That's a story of a family's past year, albeit a shortened version, we hope. Then there's all the stories of Santa, reindeer, snowmen, and nutcrackers. For Christians, the most important story is the story that set this all in motion, the birth of Christ. Why Christmas stories? I think maybe we're all trying to understand the mystery of Christmas. There are a lot of questions about the Nativity. We know Jesus was a historical figure, but there are not too many details written about his birth. One mystery is the Star of Bethlehem. We see images of it on Christmas cards. There are even songs written about it, right? Star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. The star is only mentioned briefly in Matthew's Gospel. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising and have come to do him homage. With only that to go by, I decided to write a story about that star. Do you remember Darius? He was part of the Is a Snore Snores Christmas special a few years ago. I decided to expand on Darius. He is a shepherd who wishes to be a doctor. He's from Persia. As a gift to you, I would like to read my story, Darius Follows a Star. Before I begin, I'd like to send a special thank you to Mary, a technician from Ortho Laser. I was telling her about this, and she gave me the book, The 4 Emotions of Christmas by Bob Lapine. Please sit back and enjoy Darius Follows a Star. Darius inhaled the spicy aroma of goat cooking over the fire. His stomach rumbled from spending most of his day rescuing Baba, the youngest of the sheep. She had escaped from the flock. Darius thought it would have served her right if an animal had eaten her. This was her third escape. His father, Amin, told Darius to look for her. Darius searched the hills. Not finding her, he hiked down a rocky path to the foot of the hills. Heat waves floated off the ground up into the air. The sun baked his skin, sweat oozed out of his pores. When he found her, Baba had squeezed herself between two rocks. She kicked as he tried to remove her from the rock's grip. Naughty! He was able to wrap his hands around her body and pull. The rock scraped the back of his hands. Once freed, Darius lifted her onto his shoulders and climbed back to their camp. "Did you fix the fence?" Farzanin, his mother, said. She was in her 30s, but worry and the sun etched lines into her once smooth complexion. Darius nodded. "Let your father know." "I refuse to eat Jahangir," Malik, Darius's younger brother, said. He reclined on a mat near the fire. He was 12, but his arms and legs looked like tiny twigs broken off from a bush. His head often flopped backwards or forwards as if he had no neck. "That's more for me," Darius said, rubbing his stomach. "It's about time that goat got her due." "He was my friend." Malik pouted. "You were her only friend," Darius answered. "She thought she ruled the whole world. She even pushed around Ahmed." Malik sighed. "Ahmed is a silly donkey." He shifted on the mat. "This will be a sad meal." "You will eat," was all his mother said. "Darius, go find your father. The food is ready." Darius stood up and spotted his father right away. He was leaning against a large boulder as he spoke to some men. There were camels standing behind them, their tails flicking sideways as if keeping beat to a mysterious song. Traders, probably selling spices or silks. Darius slowly crept up to his father. "We appreciate your hospitality," one of the men said. He, like the other two, were dressed in bright silk robes and cloaks. Amin looked at Darius. "Tell your mother we have guests. Go get more mats." Darius was setting out the last mat when his father and the three men approached and sat down. Farzanan served each person. She added an extra scoop to Malik's dish, but he turned away, scowling. She asked, "How will you ever get strong?" "Jahangir was my friend." The three men laughed. "What are you selling?" Darius asked. "They're not traders," Amin said. "They're astrologers. We're following a star," the one man who called himself Gaspar said. Everyone looked up at the glittering stars in the black night. "What star?" Malik asked. "There are so many." Melchior, the tallest of the astrologers, said, "We have lost the star, but we're heading that way." He pointed to the west. "To Egypt?" Darius asked. That was where he planned to study medicine. His father had learned about mixing different herbs to heal. Darius hoped to find a way to cure his brother. No one knew what was wrong with Malik. They only knew he was sick. Maybe the three men would let him travel with them. "We don't think the star is above Egypt. We believe it's near Jerusalem," Gaspar said. The third man, Balthazar, coughed. "The Hebrew people have prophesied there would be a new Messiah. We believe the new star is leading us to this king." "How can you follow a star if you lost it?" Malik asked. Darius wondered the same thing. Perhaps these men were not very smart. Who would travel for years searching for something that may not even be true? "We're astrologers," Balthazar said. "That is what we do. Follow stars, even if they disappear." "Darius, let's go," Farzanan said. The men thanked her as she stood up. Darius lifted the kettle of food and followed his mother into the darkness where the people would stand and wait. Once, While helping his mother, he had called them beggars. "Darius, they are people," she had said. "Please, do not call them beggars." "But they're begging." "That might be what they do, but that is not who they are. Don't you get mad when the other children call Malik a weakling? Besides, we might have more food to give, but they give back to us in ways we don't always understand." Darius doubted it, but obeyed his mother. The smell of cooking goat must have attracted the entire countryside, for there were several people, men, women, and children. Laughter filled the air as if this was a celebration. "They should be celebrating their getting our food," Darius thought. Away from the crowd, Darius noticed two men leaning against a tall cedar. Somber, quiet, lepers. Darius cringed. "I am so glad we have extra food tonight," his mother said. Darius was hoping to eat more of Jungengir in the morning, but judging by the crowd, they would only be eating bread. When they finished serving, his mother said, "Follow me." She pushed through scrub and approached the two men. Darius scooped some into the dish. Darius hesitated. His mother nudged his arm. He scooped some into the dish and handed it to his mother, who reached over and touched both men. "Mother, don't!" These men were unclean. She would die of leprosy. "How can you say you want to heal people, but you're afraid to touch them?" She spooned some food into the one man's mouth. When she approached the other, who was missing his arm, she asked, "What happened?" "They cut off my arms. They said that would fix me." She shook her head. "My son is learning to be a healer. Darius, feed him." Darius quickly slopped the spoon toward the man's mouth, but missed, the stew dribbling down his neck. His mother handed him a rag. "Clean him up and try again." Flinching, Darius patted the man's face and spooned the stew into his mouth. The man chewed and spit onto Darius, who rubbed it off frantically. He would bathe as soon as they returned back to camp. The man whispered, "Follow the star." Did this man know the astrologers? If not, how did he know of the star? Darius wanted to tell him there was no star to follow, but his mother pulled his arms. "Let's go." Amin was tending the fire when they returned. "There were two lepers, father," Darius said immediately. Mother touched them. "Darius, they are not lepers. They're people," Amin said. "Go wash and go to bed." "I will watch the fire," Darius said. "I want to see if there are any strange stars in the sky." "Good luck," Amin said, standing up. "I've been looking all night. My eyes are getting blurry." The ground felt hard that night as Darius stared up at the sky. 4 people that night talked about a star. Darius squinted. What were they seeing? The stars blinked back at him as if they knew but refused to reveal their secrets. Darius couldn't help feeling sorry for those astrologers. They were looking for something that didn't exist. Chapter 2. Something grabbed Darius's hair and yanked him awake. The odor of cooked straw slithered into his nostrils. Something warm and fuzzy pressed into his cheeks. Darius opened his eyes to a camel fluttering its eyelashes while munching his hair. "Ha ha ha," Malik said. "Now you know what it's like to have something chew you up." "You're still angry about Jahangir?" Darius asked. "That old goat stopped giving us milk a long time ago," Amin said. "It was time we cooked her." "Her?" Malik said, his brown eyes stretching open wide. Jahangir was a girl? She's been a girl ever since we got her, Darius said. Malik shook his head. I always wondered why you said she and her when you talked about him. Didn't you ever look under her to see she didn't have a... Farzaneh sighed and shook her head. Boys, enough. Darius pushed the camel away, stood up, and dragged his mat back to the tent. The camel trotted behind him. Darius has a girlfriend, Malik laughed. The camel pushed her head into the tent. Hey, get out of here. Why are you following me? She responded with a grunt and a tilt of her head. Darius heard his brother and parents speaking outside. Papa, you must let me help with the sheep and the goats. I never once saw you milk Jahangir. I would have known she was a girl. Maybe if you ate more to build up your strength, you'd be able to work and play, Farzaneh said. Darius glared at the camel. Move. She grunted again, but didn't budge. Gaspar appeared. How did you get loose, Lilium, my sweet flower? She didn't smell sweet to Darius. Ha ha, she must be in love with you. Just my luck. Darius did not smile back at Gaspar. Breakfast consisted of bread and tea. Darius yearned for goat meat or lamb or fish. Anything besides his flatbread charred from roasting on the coals. Balthasar stood up. We must be on our way. The star awaits. I thought you lost the star, Malik said. Gaspar laughed. We'll find it again. They climbed aboard their waiting camels. Balthasar leaned down to hand Darius a bag. You will find these helpful when you go to Egypt. Darius looked inside to see golden coins. This is way too generous. You will need them if you plan to study. Please take it as a token of our gratitude. The family watched the camels disappear into the desert, sand swirling up behind them. I want to follow a star, Malik said. You can't even walk. How do you plan to do that? Darius, his mother said, shaking her head. Don't dash his dreams. Darius didn't dare argue with his mother, but he disagreed. Malik laid on that mat day and night. He had to be carried from the fire to the tent and back again. There was no way Malik could ever follow a star. The family went about their chores during the rest of the day. Farzaneh and Malik ground wheat. Amin fixed the fence. Darius tended the sheep. Baba managed to behave herself. At dinner, they ate quietly, each one immersed with his or her thoughts. Darius, clean up. Your mother and I will go tonight. Help Malik get to bed. How come we are the only ones feeding the beggars? There are other families around here. Darius, his voice was sharp. Farzaneh touched his father's cloak but looked at her older son. Darius, we have so much. This is our way to show our gratitude. Who is this mysterious God you think you must please? Why can't you make me happy and move to Egypt? Instead, we're stuck here feeding a bunch of lazy people. They do it because of me, Malik spoke quietly. They hope that when they die, someone will take care of me. I'll always take care of you, Darius said. Where I go, you'll go. I won't always be able to follow you. Darius threw his hands up into the air. How did we get so serious? We were laughing earlier and now we're talking about death. No one is going to die tonight. Understand? Mother and father will feed the people. I will help you. And tell me a story, Malik interrupted. And tell you a story. When we awaken, mother and father will be up doing their chores. Why did he need to say this? What was he afraid of? His parents often left him and Malik alone at night. Maybe it was all that mysterious talk of those men looking for a star that didn't even exist. Their parents left. Darius cleaned up and then carried Malik to their tent. "Tell me the story of the monkey," Malik pleaded. Darius settled Malik onto his mat and sat next to him and told the story. Malik fell asleep, and Darius stepped out to the fire. He reclined on his mat and looked again at the sky with the millions of twinkling lights. Where was that star? The glow of a crescent moon cast its light on a distant hill. His eyes fluttered shut. Darius slept until Ahmed's hee-haw awakened him. He rubbed his eyes and watched his parents approach. Dawn was pushing the night sky to make way for the day. "Mother, Father, what took you so long?" "We had some problems," Amin said. "Do you mind taking care of Malik this morning as we sleep?" "Darius, look at your father's arm," Farzanan said. "It's nothing, Father. Please let me look." A red gash went from his father's elbow down to the wrist. Blood had dried up around the wound. What happened? "There were bandits. They heard about us. They almost killed your father because we had no money." "Did they follow you?" Darius looked around before standing up to grab a kettle and fill it with their reserved water. He would need to go down to the river today. He set the container onto the fire and added his special mix of herbs. "Wait here. I need to find some rags to bandage you." He carefully washed the wound and wrapped clean rags around it. "It's not deep, but we'll need to keep it clean." His father smiled. "You are going to be a great healer." "Farzanan, let's go to bed." Malik and Darius decided to keep the sheep close by, even though the animals had eaten up most of the grass. Darius had to carry Malik and make sure the sheep didn't stray. "This is so fun!" Malik shouted. Even though Malik barely weighed anything, Darius's back strained and sweat poured out of him as if he were being squeezed like a sponge. He was about to set his brother down, but spotted an angry-looking scorpion. "Let's go over here," he said, placing him next to some bushes. "I saw it." "Saw what?" "The scorpion." The sheep were not interested in grazing that day. They were all resting when Javid and his family marched toward them. He wore a long tunic cinched by a belt, and his head was covered with white linen with a bright strap around it. Javid was not only a sheep herder, but a trader. He was the wealthiest man among all the other sheep herders. "Your father, how is he?" "He and my mother are resting." Darius looked at Behi. She smiled shyly at him. She was much more lovelier than a camel. The parents had discussed betrothing Darius and Behi, but it had not done so yet. "He is going to get himself killed," Javid said, pulling out a large spear. "Give this to him. He must carry it when they go feeding all those people." "I won't need it." Ami walked toward them. "You're a stubborn man," Javid said, placing the spear back into his belt. "I am not always going to come to your rescue." "I am grateful you did. You need to stop all this nonsense." Darius didn't always share Javid's opinions, but he certainly agreed with him at that moment. Why did his parents think they had to take care of everyone? Baba scrambled away from the herd. Darius chased her as she ran into a bush. Bei had followed him. "Darius, my father said if your parents continue feeding the poor, he will break up our engagement." "I have tried telling them to stop, but they won't listen to me. They're old and set in their ways." "Bei, we're going now." Javid waved his hand back and forth. Javid and his family left, but not without leaving the spear behind one of their tents. Darius found it and hid it under his sleeping mat. For a while, Darius and his father would go, the spear hiding inside Darius's belt. They fed the poor, but encountered no bandits. This went on for several moons. Occasionally, Malik would talk about the mysterious three men. That got Darius wondering when his parents planned to take the family to Egypt. They were eating dinner around the fire one night when Anim spoke. "Your mother and I have decided we will head to Egypt for your studies, Darius. We will leave with the new moon." Darius hugged his mother and then his father. "You are the best parents ever." Because there were no more incidents, Amin and Farzaneh took the food that night. Malik squeezed them tight. "Come back soon to tell me a story." "You'll be sleeping," Amin said. "I will wait for you." They left. Malik sat under the stars with Darius. "I tried counting the stars the other day," he said. Darius laughed. "When I was counting, I thought I saw the star." "The star doesn't exist," Darius said. "We were lucky those men didn't hurt us. Our parents are too trusting." "Hurt us? Why?" "They probably go from camp to camp stealing. They gave you gold coins, which they probably took from someone else." "Did you know they didn't stop at Javid's camp? They went right to ours. They probably heard about mother and father feeding everyone and figured they could steal from us." "Tell me a happy story, Darius." Darius told Malik a story. "Tell me another one." Darius told Malik another story. It went like this for a long time until they fell asleep, the stars watching over them. Footsteps approached, startling Darius awake. He looked up to see Javid, tears streaming down his face. "Your parents." "No!" Chapter 3. Several days had passed since the funeral of Amin and Farzaneh. Many people had showed up. Where had these people been when someone murdered our parents? Darius thought. All you wanted from them was food. Could none of you save them? Malik grew even weaker. Darius tried several different herbs. Nothing worked. Baba escaped. Darius didn't go looking for her. "But you must find her," Malik pleaded. "Why don't you go find her?" Darius knew the words were cruel, but it kept Malik from arguing with him. Javid had called off the betrothal with Bahi. He was superstitious and didn't want his daughter linked to a family with murdered parents. They were eating one night when Malik said, "I saw the star again. It's over there," he pointed to the west. "I feel it wants us to follow it. Maybe it's telling us to go to Egypt." "Malik, we must resign ourselves to staying here. There's no way you could take the long journey. We only have Ahmed. He is getting old. Then maybe it would be better if I died. Then you wouldn't have to worry about me." Darius scrambled off his mat. "Malik, no, I couldn't bear it if you left me." He could not say the word died. "Even though you make me angry, you also make me happy. Malik, all I ask is that you stop talking about that star. We would make mother and father happy if I remained a sheep herder and your health improved." "But you're a terrible sheep herder. You let Baba go. You're unhappy. You've always wanted to be a healer. That would make mother and father happier." "My dreams are like that star, Malik. I don't know where to go. Tomorrow I will work at being a better shepherd and brother." That night, Darius tossed and turned. He had lied to his brother. The dream of becoming a healer was more real than that silly star, but he had to tuck it away forever. Bah! Bah! Baba, is that you? He opened the tent flap to see her dirty and looking up at him. What are we going to do with you? Darius lifted her up to take her to bed with him when something bright twinkled. It grew larger and larger, as if it was heading toward Darius. It was so bright he had to cover his eyes. Follow the star, he heard. It was the voice of the man who had leprosy. Darius went outside and looked around, but saw no one. By now the star had shed so much light, Darius squinted. Malik, can you see this? He opened his brother's tent. Malik snored away on his mat. Does anyone see this? Almost as soon as it had happened, it left, leaving the night behind. Darius looked up at the shining stars as if nothing had happened. Are you sure about this? Javid asked as he gave Darius a bag of gold. If you come back, you can have all your sheep. You can keep Baba, Darius said. Your parents wanted you to go to Egypt, not follow some strange star. The star will lead Darius to Egypt, Malik said. He was perched on Ahmed. It looked as if he was about to slide off the other side. Are you safe on there? Javid asked. Yes, come on, Darius, let's go. I need to say goodbye to one more person. Bahi had stood off away from her father. Her eyes were red and more tears looked ready to shed. I will never love another one, she said. Darius smiled. You will, I know. You're a beautiful woman. You have many talents. Bahi sighed. Father has found another husband for me. Bazan. Bazan is a good man, Darius said. Oh, but he's so old. He's rich. Now you sound like my father. Goodbye, Bahi. Darius patted Ahmed's flanks, and the donkey trotted away. He felt sorry for the beasts since they had to carry all their food, water, tent, and Malik, who was the lightest. Their journey would take them across deserts, over mountains, into cities and lands. Lots of it. They had only just started when Malik asked, How much longer? It will take days and days and days, Malik. Please don't keep asking. I'm thirsty. You had a drink before we left. I need to relieve myself. Again? I'm bored. And that is how they traveled. Sometimes they met people, traders mostly. When Malik would tell them about the star, they would give them strange looks and leave them alone. Maybe you shouldn't tell people we're following a star, Darius had said one night. They'll think we're strange. We are strange, aren't we? Malik smiled. You're strange. Though the trip left them exhausted at night, it seemed as if Malik was getting stronger. One day he stood up, only leaning against Ahmed. Look, Darius, I can stand. The star is healing me. Then he collapsed. When I get better, I'm going to find a wife, Malik said another time. You're only 12. It's never too early to search. I want one like Mother. Kind. Too kind, Darius thought. For now, just worry about getting better. On and on they traveled, but it seemed as if they would never reach that star. Malik, where is the star taking us? Darius asked one night. Maybe it's the journey that matters, not the destination. Darius sighed. If this was only about a journey, he would be angry. He could be in Egypt right now, learning. Well, maybe not at that moment. It would take them longer, but at least he would know where they were heading and the purpose of the trip. Darius, you have made me the happiest boy on earth, Malik said one night. If I died now, it would be okay. I thought you were looking for a wife. Of course. But I am living happiness right now. When I get married, that will be a new happiness. Today, I live today's happiness. The star led them to the town of Nazareth. Why Nazareth? What was about this town that was so important? Darius mumbled to himself as he was setting up camp. Look, Darius, that woman looks ready to have a baby. I wonder where they're going. Let's go ask. I'm busy. Please come with me. Darius carried his brother over to the couple. Hello, my name is Malik. Where are you going? It's nighttime. The man and woman stopped walking. We're heading to Bethlehem, the man said. He looked younger up close, not much older than Darius. They were dressed in Hebrew clothing. We couldn't leave until now to travel. Bethlehem, your wife looks as if she's about to have a baby, Malik persisted. The Roman census demands we go, the woman spoke. They do not care if I'm about to give birth. Then you must take our donkey. Malik! Darius shouted. You wanted to follow the star and now you're giving away our donkey? Look at her. She should not be traveling in her condition. We will still find that star. Please, Darius. Darius set his brother onto the ground and went over and untied Ahmed and led him to the couple. He likes to be hand-fed. A little slap on his butt will get him going. The woman leaned over and kissed Ahmed. What a sweet creature. You are very kind. It is my brother who is kind. When he tells me to do something, I have to obey, or he'll complain bitterly. He picked his brother back up. May I? Malik asked as he raised his hand. Yes, you may. Malik set his hand on her stomach. A flash of light pushed out from the darkness. Malik looked at his brother. Darius, I can walk. Put me down. Darius hesitated. Now! Darius set his brother down and watched as Malik walked. Who are you? Malik asked. We are just Joseph and Mary, said the woman. Joseph, I think we must get going. Joseph lifted her onto Ahmed. Malik and Darius watched them leave, much like they had watched the three travelers seeking the star. I'm going to miss Ahmed, Malik said. Don't blame me. You're the one who offered to give it to Mary and Joseph. Darius headed back to their camp. You can now help me. Malik jumped into the air. Darius, this is the best day of my life. I don't care if Ahmed is gone. I can now walk. Chapter 4. They left Nazareth. Every time they met someone, Malik told them about Mary, Joseph, and the baby. I was healed. I used to not be able to walk, but I touched Mary's stomach, and I was healed. People thought that story was even stranger than the story of the star. Is there a reason you have to talk to everyone? Darius asked. You are going to get us killed. Did you know it's easier to walk than ride on Ahmed? I was always sliding off. I hope Mary was okay. She looked so tired. The star stopped, leading them west, and shifted to the south. There were crowds of people on the roads. "Why are there all these people?" Darius asked. Mary said they had to be counted. Maybe they're all going to the same place. At night, groups would sit around fires and sing. Malek often invited himself and danced and told stories. The people would laugh. Darius would groan, especially when Malek would tell them stories about the star. "See? Look, it's up there. Can't you see it?" People would look up but not see it. "We've been following that star," he said one time. "It was taking us to the west, but now we're going south. Why do you think that is?" One man laughed. "If you had continued west, you'd end up in water." "A river?" Everyone chuckled. "No, the sea," a woman answered. "Darius, we must go to the sea. Once we figure out where the star is taking us, we'll go to the sea. Once we get to Egypt, we'll see the Nile," Darius insisted. "We don't need to be going to chase a sea." A young boy about the age of Malek asked, "Why do you travel during the day? How can you see the star?" "We wake up really early and it's still in the sky," Malek answered. "Then we follow it." One morning, upon waking, the star was missing. Malek and Darius squinted and turned around to see if it had moved. It was nowhere. "I guess we have the day off," Darius said. "We have to keep going," Malek persisted. "Where?" "The star is tired, and so am I," Darius said. "Good night." "May I play with my new friend?" "Yes." Darius could hear carts rattling past, probably carrying Roman soldiers. He had heard about the Romans, but had never seen one before this journey. There were talk of the Romans conquering Persia, but that had never happened. The Hebrew people were terrified of the Romans and avoided them. Darius didn't know too much about the Romans to be afraid. Crash! Darius bolted up. "Oh!" a woman exclaimed. "Keep your rotten child out of the road!" a man shouted. Then a cart clattered over the rocks, the sound fading away. Darius stepped out of his tent to see a crowd staring at him. Why are they staring at me? He expected Malek to come over and tell him what had happened. Malek? His eyes traveled to the different tents and groups. "Malek?" he shouted. The people were frozen until someone parted them. It was Asher carrying a child. It was a limp Malek. "He saved our David by pushing him out of the way. I am so sorry." He handed the lifeless child to Darius. "No!" The Hebrews offered to perform their funeral rites for Malek. Since there was none of his kin around, he let them. He planned to return back to Persia. It was Malek who wanted to follow that star, not him. He woke early one morning, planning to leave, but the star was there, waiting, prodding. "No," Darius said, "leave me alone." A Hebrew woman was tending a fire and gave him a quizzical glance. "Sorry, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to that star," he pointed. She looked. "I think it wants you to follow it. You can see it? It's the star of the Messiah. It has been foretold. For some reason, it is calling you." Darius was shocked. Hebrew women were not to speak to men when they were alone, especially non-Hebrew men. More surprisingly, she could see the star. He looked back at her. She nodded. "Go." The star stopped right above a stable. A stable? Darius thought. All around him were shepherds entering, but there were no camels. Where were those 3 men? He pulled a shepherd aside. What's going on? The angels told us. Wait, angel? These shepherds were stranger than Malek and those 3 men. Seeing a star was odd, but angels, that was really odd. Yes, we were tending our sheep, and there were hundreds of them in the sky, singing glory to God in the highest. Darius arched his eyebrows. Maybe he was in the wrong place. He looked up. The star's tail touched the stable roof. We are going to worship the Messiah. The Messiah? The Hebrew Messiah? Darius was not going to worship some other religion's God. He is the Messiah over all people. I gotta go. The man pushed himself into the barn. Didn't those 3 wise men say something about a Messiah? Darius peered in. He spotted an oxen munching on straw. Another animal, a donkey, rested near it. Was that Ahmed? What was he doing here? Did Mary and Joseph have to sell him? Barn smells wended themselves into his nose. That was one benefit to keeping your animals outside. Darius covered his nose while searching for those 3 men. More shepherds bumped past him. There was a low rumbling sound. When Malek and he were traveling, often they camped near the Hebrews, who did the same thing. They were praying to their God. Where was this king everyone was talking about? In a corner, he spotted them, Mary and Joseph, looking intently at a baby sleeping in a manger. A manger? A filthy manger? Why are they here and not at an inn? He stepped inside. Mary noticed, stood up, and walked over him. Darius, you found us. Where is Malek? Darius froze. Tears welled up in his eyes. Oh dear, I am so sorry. We only met him that short time, but he left such an impression on Joseph and me. We thought he was healed. He was, but a Roman soldier drove over him. Malek had pushed another boy out of the way, not thinking to move himself. Joseph, Mary called. Come here, it's Darius. The young father smiled. Darius. He hugged him. It felt strange. He then pointed over to Ahmed. Your donkey got us here safe and sound. Joseph looked around. Where's? Mary quickly shook her head. He was run over by a Roman soldier. Darius directed his glance at the shepherds. What are all these dirty shepherds doing? Don't they know you just had a baby? Why aren't you resting? Can I get something for you? They are here to give their gifts to Jesus, Mary said. Jesus? Joseph pointed to the tiny sleeping baby with curly brown hair. His face was still red from birth. What is your baby doing inside that filthy animal trough? The parents laughed. Don't worry, I cleaned it, Joseph said. That was the only thing I could find to set Jesus in. Why are you in this barn in the first place? Darius, you worry too much. Mary smiled. There were these 3 men who told us about a star, astrologers. Did they ever show up? Joseph shook his head. They might have lost their way. What are these shepherds doing here anyway? And someone told me about angels? It is a miraculous night, said Mary, taking hold of Darius's arm. Come, meet Jesus. Bring him your gifts. I have a few coins, a raggedy tent, certainly things not fit for a baby. Joseph followed. Give him what's inside you. Darius pointed at Jesus. "Oh no, I am too angry. I might say things I regret." Joseph stared intently at Darius. "Do it." What a strange thing to tell someone to do. Yell at your baby. What could a baby do about it? Besides, all that yelling might make the baby cry. He looked back at Joseph, who nodded. Darius watched what the shepherds were doing and noticed they all knelt by the sleeping baby, who didn't seem to notice all the commotion. Not sure of himself, but trying to make Mary and Joseph happy, he knelt and leaned forward. Jesus had that new baby smell. "Hello, baby Jesus. Your parents told me I should tell you I'm angry. I don't know what you can do about it, but since you're here, I'm going to tell you. First, why did my brother have to get well only to get killed? Why did my parents get killed? They were only helping people. It's so wrong." He turned to see a shepherd staring at him. "Why are you telling the baby all this?" the shepherd asked. "Joseph told me to." The man shrugged, stood up, and left the barn. Darius looked back at Jesus. The baby's mouth quivered as if he was about to speak. Maybe this was the Messiah. At the very least, this baby was remarkable if he was going to talk. Darius stared. Jesus yawned, then hiccuped. No stirring words of comfort. Darius sniffed. Joseph approached him. "So, what happened?" "I think Jesus needs his diaper changed." But he knew something miraculous had just happened inside him, all because of Jesus. His anger, his sadness, his disappointment were all wiped away, just like Malek's illness had been wiped away. In place of the anger, Darius felt peace and joy. Darius stayed late into the night and talked with Mary and Joseph, telling them stories of Malek and their journey. Mary often had to stop and feed Jesus. She let Darius hold Jesus while she slept. Some of the shepherds complained, "How come he gets to hold the baby?" Joseph put his fingers to his lips. "Shh, Mary's sleeping." A young boy crept in. Darius gave a start. He was just like Malek. Was it Malek? The boy approached Darius, his eyes only on the infant in his arms. Close up, Darius realized he didn't look at all like his brother. "Tell Jesus your problems," Darius said. The boy shook and began to tear up. "Jesus, I'm all alone. Send me a family." "What happened?" Darius asked. "My grandmother took care of me, but she just died tonight." He looked down at his feet. "She was my only family, since my parents died long ago." "My parents died too." It was strange talking about death, but for some reason Darius felt a stirring of hope. Jesus opened his eyes. Darius knew that newborns couldn't really see, but it was as if Jesus was looking right at him. The baby smiled. Darius felt the urge to continue talking to the boy. "I'm all alone too," Darius said. "I'm heading to Egypt. Do you want to come along?" "Maybe." "You're not going to sell me into slavery, are you? Grandma used to tell me terrible stories of what they did to slaves." "No, I want to be a healer. I won't hurt you." Darius held Jesus closer to his heart. "I had a brother like you." "What happened?" "He was run over by a Roman soldier." "You have had a very sad life. I am so sorry about that." The boy stared at the baby. "I wish I could hold him." Joseph nodded. Darius handed the sleeping Jesus to the boy. He finally understood why Malek was so persistent in following that star. The star had led him to a place that would point him to the right direction. "Did the angels tell you to come here?" Darius asked the boy. He shook his head. "No, I followed a star." The end. Thank you for joining me as I read Darius Follows a Star. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Cheers!